She closed the curtain slowly, bit her lip, and whispered, "Now no one can interrupt us." Her words lingered, heavy with a purpose I couldn't yet grasp, sending a shiver through me as my heart pounded with a mix of curiosity and dread. What was she planning? Why did it feel like I was stepping into something I might never walk away from? The air in the room seemed to thicken, and I couldn't shake the sense that this moment was about to change everything. Hey, before we dive deeper, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Are you in New York, California, maybe Texas? Drop your location below and let's get into the story. My name's Emily Carter, a 28-year-old graphic designer living in Chicago in 2025. My life was nothing out of the ordinary. Mornings spent grabbing coffee from the corner cafe, late nights hunched over my laptop tweaking designs for clients, and the occasional Friday evening at a rooftop bar with friends, sipping cocktails, and laughing about nothing in particular. It was a comfortable routine, predictable even, and I liked it that way. That is until I met Sarah Mitchell. Sarah was different from anyone I'd ever crossed paths with. She had this magnetic pull, a way of drawing you in before you even realized you were caught. Her presence was electric, like she carried a secret that made the world bend around her. We met at a networking event in downtown Chicago, one of those glitzy affairs with overpriced drinks and people handing out business cards like they were candy. I was there to pitch my freelance design services, hoping to snag a big client who could boost my portfolio. Sarah, though, she wasn't there for the same reasons as everyone else. I was standing by the bar pretending to be interested in a conversation about branding trends when she approached me. Her smile was warm but sharp, her hazel eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite read. "You look like someone who's got a story to tell," she said, leaning casually against the bar. I laughed, brushing it off as just another icebreaker. But there was something about her voice, her confidence, that made me feel like she already knew me. We got to talking, and before I knew it, we'd exchanged numbers. Over the next few weeks, our texts became a daily ritual. First about work, then about life, and eventually about things I rarely shared with anyone. She told me she was a consultant for tech startups, always jetting off to new cities, chasing the next big deal. But there was something elusive about her, like she was always holding back just enough to keep me guessing. A few weeks later, Sarah invited me to her apartment for what she called a strategy session. I assumed it was about a potential collaboration. She'd mentioned a project that could use my design skills, and I was eager to land something new. Her place was in one of those sleek high-rises in the Loop, all glass and steel with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of Lake Michigan. My tiny studio in Wicker Park felt like a shoebox in comparison. I showed up that evening, a little nervous, but mostly excited, clutching a portfolio of my best work. Sarah greeted me at the door with a glass of red wine and that same knowing smile. "Come in, Emily," she said, her voice warm, but laced with something I couldn't place. "We've got a lot to talk about." The night started off easy enough. We sat on her plush velvet couch, the city lights twinkling through the window, and chatted about design trends, the Chicago startup scene, and the challenges of freelancing in a city full of competition. Sarah was charming, asking questions that made me feel seen, like she genuinely cared about my perspective. But as the conversation drifted, I noticed her steering it to more personal territory. My dreams, my fears, what I'd do if I could rewrite my life from scratch. Her questions were thoughtful, almost too thoughtful, like she was searching for something specific beneath my answers. I didn't mind at first. Felt nice to be understood. But then the mood shifted. She stood up, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain closed with a slow, deliberate motion. My stomach tightened, a faint alarm bell ringing in the back of my mind. She turned back to me, biting her lip, and said those words, "Now no one can interrupt us." Her tone was soft but firm, and the room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. I let out a nervous laugh, expecting her to smile and explain it away as a joke. But her expression stayed serious, her eyes locked on mine. "Emily," she said, sitting closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "I didn't invite you here just for work. I need your help with something bigger." I froze, my wine glass hovering near my lips. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my pulse was starting to race. Sarah leaned in, her gaze intense. "There's a project I'm working on," she said. "It's not like anything you've ever done. It's sensitive and it's off the books." My mind spun. Was this about her consulting work, a side hustle, or something else entirely? I pressed her for details, but she was maddeningly vague, saying only that it involved disrupting the system and that my design skills could be a game changer. "I trust you, Emily," she added, her voice softening. "That's why you're here." Every instinct told me to leave right then. I could feel it in my gut. A warning that this was crossing a line I wasn't ready for. But something about Sarah, her intensity, her conviction kept me rooted to the couch. She pulled out a tablet and swiped through a series of designs, but they weren't the kind of work I was used to. No logos, no websites, no branding decks. These were mock-ups of encrypted interfaces, complex data dashboards, and something that looked like a digital blueprint for I couldn't even tell. It was intricate, almost military grade, and it made my stomach churn. "This is bigger than us," she said, her voice low and urgent. "But it's risky. If you're in, you're all in. No half measures." I sat there, my mind racing, trying to piece together what she was asking of me. Over the next hour, Sarah laid out fragments of her plan, though she never gave me the whole picture. She talked about a network of people, coders, designers, insiders, who were working together to expose something massive. She wouldn't say what, only that it involved people in power and information they don't want out there. My role, she explained, would be to create visuals that could mask sensitive data, making it accessible only to the right people. "Think of it like a digital SmokeX screen," she said, her eyes lighting up. "Your designs would protect us while we get the truth out." I was torn. Part of me was thrilled. The idea of being part of something this big, this secret, was unlike anything I'd ever done. I'd spent years designing logos for coffee shops and websites for small businesses. This felt like a chance to make a real impact, to be part of something that mattered. But another part of me was screaming for caution. Who was Sarah really? Why me? A nobody freelancer with no connections to anything remotely like this. And what was the cost of getting involved? I swallowed hard and asked her point blank if this was legal. She hesitated, her eyes flickering for just a moment, then said, "It's not about breaking laws. It's about doing what's right." That answer did nothing to calm the knot in my chest. As the night wore on, Sarah's demeanor shifted between warm and intense, like she was testing me. One minute, she'd laugh and refill my wine glass, her charm pulling me back in. The next, she'd fix me with a stare that made my skin prickle like she was weighing my every word. At one point, she dropped a name that made my blood run cold. Jonathan Reed. I'd seen him in headlines. A tech mogul known for his shady dealings in AI and data privacy. The kind of guy who could make or break entire industries with a single phone call. "He's part of this," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But he doesn't know we're onto him." My heart sank. This wasn't just some startup drama. This was dangerous. The kind of thing that could ruin lives. I started noticing little things that set me on edge. Her phone kept buzzing on the coffee table, but she ignored it every time, her eyes flicking to it for just a second before returning to me. The apartment, for all its luxury, felt oddly sterile. No personal photos, no knickknacks, nothing that made it feel lived in. It was like a stage set designed to impress but reveal nothing. When I asked about her team, she brushed it off with a vague, "You'll meet them when the time's right." By midnight, I was exhausted, my head spinning with questions I didn't dare ask. I told her I needed time to think about her offer. She nodded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Don't take too long, Emily," she said, her voice low, the clocks ticking. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and second-guessing. Sarah texted me constantly, dropping cryptic hints about the project. "Check the news tomorrow," she'd write, and sure enough, I'd see a story about a date, a breach at a major tech firm, or a whistleblower exposing corruption in the industry. Was she behind it? Was she trying to show me what she was capable of? I couldn't tell, and it was driving me crazy. I tried digging into her online, searching for any trace of who she really was, but her digital footprint was almost non-existent. There was a polished LinkedIn profile with a few endorsements, a couple of vague mentions in tech blogs, and nothing else. It was like she'd curated her existence to reveal nothing. And that only made me more uneasy. Meanwhile, I started feeling like I was being watched. At work, I noticed a guy in a dark jacket lingering near the entrance to my office building, his face half hidden under a baseball cap. He was there 2 days in a row, always at the same time, never making eye contact. When I got home one night, my laptop, always locked with a strong password, had a notification about a failed login attempt. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just a coincidence, but the unease kept growing. I confided in my friend Lauren over coffee, laying out everything Sarah had told me. Her eyes widened as I talked, and when I finished, she shook her head. "This sounds like a scam, she said. "Or worse, you need to stay away from her." But I wasn't so sure. Sarah's passion, her urgency, it felt so real, like she genuinely believed in whatever she was doing. A week after our first meeting, Sarah texted me again, asking me to come back to her apartment. I almost didn't go. Every rational part of me was screaming to cut contact, to block her number, and forget I'd ever met her. But curiosity, that nagging need to know, got the better of me. This time when I arrived, she was more direct. She pulled out a flash drive, small and black, and held it up like it was a key to the universe. "This contains proof," she said, her voice steady. "Proof of something that could change everything." She wouldn't let me see what was on it. Not yet. But she said it was my ticket in if I was ready. "You're either with us or you're not," she said, her tone colder than before. "But if you're not, you can't tell anyone about this." Not a word. I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. If I said yes, I was diving head first into something I didn't understand, something that could upend my life. If I said no, would she let me walk away? I thought about Jonathan Reed, about the headlines, about the kind of power he wielded. People like him didn't just let things slide. My palms were sweaty, my pulse hammering in my ears. I told Sarah I needed one more day to decide. She agreed, but as I stood to leave, she grabbed my arm, her grip firm. "Be careful, Emily," she said, her eyes boring into mine. "You're already in deeper than you think." I barely slept that night, my mind replaying every moment of our conversations, every glance, every word. The next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. "Back off or you'll regret it." My blood ran cold. I tried calling Sarah, but her number was disconnected. I took the L to her apartment building, my heart in my throat, but when I asked for her at the front desk, the doorman looked at me like I was crazy. "No one named Sarah Mitchell lives here," he said. I checked her LinkedIn profile. Gone. Her texts, the only proof I had of her, were still on my phone, but they felt like ghosts now, taunting me with questions I couldn't answer. I spent the next few days in a haze, replaying every interaction, trying to figure out what was real. Was Sarah a con artist playing me for some kind of scam? Was she a whistleblower fighting for something bigger than herself? Or was she something else entirely? Someone working for people I didn't want to cross. I didn't know, and the not knowing was eating me alive. Then I found it. The flash drive. She'd slipped it into my bag that night, tucked into a side pocket I rarely used. I held it in my hand, its weight heavier than it should have been. Part of me wanted to plug it in to see what proof she'd been talking about, to know what she'd been fighting for, but another part of me was terrified. What if she was right? What if I was already in too deep? What if opening that drive meant there was no going back? I hid the drive in a locked drawer, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every night when I closed my curtains, I heard her voice in my head. Now no one can interrupt us. It was like she was still there watching, waiting for me to make a choice. I've thought about turning the drive over to the police. But what would I say? That a woman I barely knew gave me something I was too scared to look at? I've thought about destroying it. But what if it really does contain something important? Something that could change everything. Like she said, I'm stuck caught between curiosity and fear, between wanting to know and wanting to forget. So that's my story, and I'm still living it, still trying to figure out what to do. What would you do in my shoes? Would you plug in the drive, risking everything to know the truth, or would you walk away, pretending it never happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've ever been pulled into something you couldn't explain, I want to hear about it. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next.